How's it, Curt and Travis? Seamus here from Stellenbosch in sunny South Africa. Keep up the amazing work on the Adventure Sport podcast. It's really inspirational stuff, guys. Thank you so much.
Hey friends, thanks again for listening to the Adventure Sports Podcast today. We have a special show for you. Would you believe? Episode 300.
300?
300.
I thought we were doing episode 200.
No, this is 300. 300 episodes, and today is episode 300. So Travis and I decided to kind of do remembering and looking forward and visiting a little bit about what the show is all about as a special episode 300 celebration.
No, wait, really? So this is episode 300? That's what you're saying? This is not episode 200?
That's what I'm saying, episode 300.
Holy
so if you
cow.
took an episode and you tried to play one a day, you'd almost make it through a year before you ran out of episodes to listen to.
I like the sounds of that, actually. I think people should do that.
Well, why not? It'd be awesome.
So 300 episodes. We've been doing this for 2.5 years now. Can you believe that stat?
Nah, 2.5 years. That's craziness.
Yeah, it's a true statement. So 300 episodes, 2.5 years, and downloads?
We just broke 1 million.
1 million downloads.
Not just 300 episodes, but 1 million downloads. That's pretty cool.
That is cool. I think that is cool. So we get listeners from all around the world, as you guys know, and we are excited because it was literally yesterday that broke 1 million, and that is really cool news for Curt and I because we work hard at this thing, and for some reason see that one in front of all those zeros is such a cool thing. So I'm impressed, Curt. Good job.
Good job, Travis. Well, the reality is, good job, listeners. You know, we do it for the listeners, and I'm really glad to hear that 1 million times people have listened to the show, and hopefully they have gained some inspiration, learned something about a sport they want to try, maybe help some people to get a little bit healthier, a little bit happier. You know, that's why we do this show. That's what it's really all about. So to me, I think about that. I go, wow, 1 million downloads. There are a lot of people out there who hopefully have benefited from these amazing guests that we have on, primarily Travis. I mean, we've got to talk about the guests because they're what make the show. People that are out there doing things, feats, adventures that are just so amazing, sharing their stories and putting it out there for the rest of the world to get to enjoy and to learn from. So really, it's about the guests, the amazing people that come on the show every day.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, they're the ones out there doing it, and they're giving us a few minutes of their time to talk about what they've done. And I think it's so cool that we've been able to talk to so many different people from so many different adventure sports. I mean, I don't think when we started this show that I even could fathom how many different sports we could delve into. And I think there's a ton that we still haven't even hit yet that are yet to come. But to introduce all these different sports to our listeners, I think has been it's been a lot of fun, and I agree. I thank them for spending their time on our show to do so.
Yeah, no doubt. And I have to throw out there what you shared with me. We've got one coming up, folks. It's adventure sleeping. So there's a new sport for you.
You know, who doesn't like sleeping? For starters, right? I mean, that's one of the best things that was ever created for a human being was sleep. And if you can add adventure and include adventure into sleeping, that's going to be a neat show. I look forward to hearing that one.
It really is adventurous. It's not a spoof. It's the real deal. And, you know, we did the show where the guy slept on top of all the 14ers in Colorado. That's adventurous sleeping, and it's kind of along those lines, you know, going places and sleeping in places that people don't normally get to sleep and having those experiences that come from that. So, I don't know, man, there's so much fun stuff that we've experienced. What's been some of your favorite things about producing and hosting the Adventure Sports Podcast? What has it done in your life?
Well, we've talked about this before, but we came up with this show, the idea of the show to help people get out there, help them get the inspiration to get out there and try something new and maybe live outside their comfort zone a little bit and take a few small risks, whether it be physical or psychological. You know, a lot of us have a hard time taking that first step to do something. So what it's done for me is truly broadened my adventure repertoire, my portfolio. I had a small few things I used to do and chose those as hobbies and did them. And when we got into this show, as we talk about often on episodes and interviewing people, we always find something else that we want to try. So our bucket list has grown exponentially. So it's enabled me to also receive the dose of inspiration that we're trying to give others to go out and try new things. And we've done a lot more backpacking than I used to do. Some of the camping, I mean, being introduced to hammock camping, some of these things that I just kind of knew about but wasn't really all into it. It's finally introduced them to me, and it's created this desire to constantly get out at this point. So, in 2.5 years of doing this show, I think my summers have been much busier than they had in the past, and I think that's an awesome thing. How about you?
Oh man, it's funny because you and I started episode 0. People go back and listen to episode 0. You have to go to the Adventure Sports Podcast to find it. But episode 0, we started with a list of all the adventure sports that we had done in our lives. And it's a pretty good list of things that we had at least tried. So, I felt like, well, we're pretty adventurous people. But the reality is that after listening to nearly 300 guests on our show share their amazing adventures, I was like, wow, how humbling it was to find out what people are out there doing. It impacted me in ways I didn't expect. I mean, we were already adventurous people, Travis. That's why we did the Adventure Sports Podcast. That's why we started 180 TAC, right? With outdoors products, camping stoves, that kind of stuff, because we love the outdoors, we love adventure. But the reality is, it's kind of changed my life in ways I didn't expect, for the better. Here's one example. The through hike that I did through the Holy Cross Wilderness with 2 of my sons. I had been wanting to do that for 20 years. Why had I not done it? I don't know. My sons were too young. I didn't have enough time off from work. I didn't want to take the vacation or whatever it was. But when we started talking to all these through hikers and backpackers about their through hikes, I was like, I'm going to do that. It kicked my butt out the door, and my sons and I had, wow, just the experience of a lifetime hiking through Holy Cross Wilderness. But it's continued to grow from there. Maybe I should tell the listeners what we just recently did as a family. And a lot of that has to do with the Adventure Sports Podcast. Well, the realization that life is short and it should be lived. That's a lot of what grew out of this. I grew out of being a part of the Adventure Sports Podcast. My family and I decided to move from the Front Range of Colorado, where we lived in the mountains outside of Golden, to deeper in the mountains. And in so doing, we placed ourselves in Gunnison, Colorado. And the reason we did that is because, for one, Gunnison is an amazing mountain town. We love it. We love the people, the community. It's just wonderful. But it's also because its location is surrounded by adventure sports and adventure sport opportunities on all sides. And we said, you know what? It is time, while our family is still with us, it's time for us to move to a place where we can live the adventure sports lifestyle even more than we did before. So we just recently moved to Gunnison, Colorado, and we're still living out of boxes. We're not even done with that yet.
Yeah, I can attest to that because my son Harley and I just came down for the weekend and to visit you guys down there for the first time. And yep, there's a lot of boxes around the house, but Curt and his family have created a great little crash pad down there for his friends to come crash while they're taking advantage of some of the adventure sports down there. So I like Gunnison. I had passed through Gunnison and stayed in hotels, on various trips, but had never really spent much time in Gunnison, except for the occasional walk down the road and find a restaurant. But being able to spend some time in Gunnison this weekend was awesome. We got to see the town. We got to ride down to the river and see where your son does all his fly fishing. We got to take the mountain bikes up to Hartman's recreational area and check that out. We had some fantastic mountain bike riding this weekend. I mean, I think you said it was the best riding you had ever done, and I have to agree. It was just a good, solid day of riding. But Gunnison is peaceful. I mean, when I came back to the Front Range, I was actually just in the car with my wife today, and I looked, at all the traffic going by me waiting to pull out from a stoplight, and I thought, you know what? I think I even said it out loud. I said it wasn't like this in Gunnison, so I think you guys did a really good thing there. It was so cool.
Well, that was a fun weekend. I noticed, Travis, that you took up mountain biking in a much more plugged in way, I could say, in the last couple of years, and you have kind of transitioned into that as one of your primary sports. I think that's probably because of the show.
No, it absolutely is. I think there were a couple of things that factored into that, but I used to ride. When I lived back in Connecticut, I used to ride mountain bikes, and once I got out to Colorado, I did quite a bit of riding out here, but I really fell out of it. I think having little kids, babies, your hobbies really kind of take a back seat, unfortunately. If you let them, I guess they don't have to, but I did let them when it came to mountain biking. And it was partly because of the show and partly because my son was old enough to get into mountain biking, and he was taking a mountain biking class. And between those two, it's probably taken the top shelf of my hobby list of things I like to do the most, which is good because it's a lot more exercise than riding motorcycles. I still love my motorcycles, but yeah, getting out on the mountain bike is definitely our priority these days.
Yeah, we should probably tell the guest about Hartman Rocks, just because I don't know how many people know about it, but man, what a fun day we had there. What a great resource for mountain bikers and motorcyclers, dirt bikers, camping, rock climbing. The list goes on, the things that you can do there. But what was your impression of it?
I really liked it. In fact, I was just telling somebody today that we need to get back down there. I want to take my mountain bike and my motorcycle down there and make a week out of it. And actually what struck me was the amount of BLM land and camping availability out there to take your toys out and spend some time out there. So, yeah, I mean, we had this conversation about how it compared to Moab. I had a recent trip working for a week in Moab and had my mountain bike out there, and I really enjoy Moab. But at the same time, from what I experienced in Moab, I wouldn't say Moab was any better. I mean, it's different, but Hartman's in Gunnison is just as good as Moab as far as I was concerned from what I had experienced out there. So, yeah, I mean, the variety of trails that you guys have are awesome. I mean, you got some double black diamonds, and then you got all the way down to the rollers, like the luge that are green but beautiful, just sweepers going through the field. And it's pretty much got everything for everybody, for all walks.
Yeah, I have always been someone who loves trees. I grew up in the forest, lived in the forest for the past 20 years, and Gunnison is in the mountains just below the forest, which is kind of a different experience for us. And Hartman Rocks is BLM land, not forest land. It's a lot of sagebrush and a lot of rocks. And at first I was like, well, I don't know. Am I going to like this? I'm so used to the trees because I just love trees. But the reality is the open sweeping views, the way that the land rolls, the rock outcroppings that are there, and all of it comes together to make a very special place. And I tell my kids all the time, it doesn't matter where you are in nature, its own unique beauty is there if you take time to recognize it. And man, the more time I spend in that kind of arid desert high plateau, the more I like it. It's just so beautiful with those beautiful views, and I love watching the weather roll in and then seeing the 14ers off in the distance. And I don't know, man, I'm falling in love with it.
So I got to say, now that you've been down into Gunnison for a couple weeks, what has it done for you and your family? How has it changed your outlook on where you live?
We used to sacrifice so much time and energy to live in nature because we lived 45 minutes outside of Denver in the mountains. And most of the services that we needed were 45 minutes away in Denver outside of the mountains, And so life was good there, but stressful, long drives. And, man, if you had to run to town to run an errand, then it was going to shoot a half day, if not more. I think the biggest impact we didn't really expect would be such a big impact was being in a town where everything you need is close at hand, and the amount of time saved that's freed up to do things. So instead of driving, right, we're mountain biking, or we're fly fishing, or we're walking the dogs. My wife started biking again, which she hadn't done in forever, but she grabbed a bike and took off, and she's been biking with the family now because Gunnison is so biker friendly, And so I think that that's a lot of it, but I have to highlight one other thing that is amazing to me, and that is the community. It's when you get into a real community instead of a bedroom community. You get into a real community where people are friendly and welcoming. And, we just got there. But, wow, I can't believe how nice the people have been to us already. So this isn't a Gunnison sales, show. That's not what this is about. I'm just kind of celebrating how much fun it's been because it's been such a rewarding experience for us so far.
No, and I agree. Yeah, it's not the intention is not to sell Gunnison, but I think the bigger point is that this all this talking about adventure and talking to people about just getting out there and doing something for yourself and taking life by the horns. I think that probably had a big impact on your decision to move to Gunnison in the first place, don't you?
Oh yeah, no doubt it did. It's probably the thing that motivated me the most to actually take the step. It was a scary thing for us. There's a lot of financial risk involved. I'll just say that out front. There's financial risk involved. We don't know how everything's going to turn out exactly, but there are so many guests who came on our show who just kept saying, if you want to do something, you have to do something, And kind of my mantra for the last several months has been, if you want life to change, you have to change something. And so that's why we did it. We just stepped out and said, we don't know where this journey is going to end. We only know our next step. And that next step was to move to a community like Gunnison. It's been a delightful thing for us so far.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I did appreciate being able to go mountain biking one day and then grab the fly rod the next day and go hit Taylor River and try to find trout. I don't ever find trout, but I like looking for them at least.
Yeah. Well, we took a week off when we got there because I wanted to have that vacation time with the family to celebrate our new home. And during that week, we went boating on Blue Mesa Reservoir, the biggest lake in Colorado. We went four-wheeling up over some amazing high passes and enjoyed views of dozens of 14ers and amazing four-wheel drive roads. We went to Crested Butte and just kind of kicked around town and ate some food and looked at the scenery, which was amazing. We went to Lake City and did a little bit of hiking up in the American Basin by Handy's Peak, 14er. We did quite a bit of mountain biking. We did quite a bit of fly fishing. And we just barely scratched the surface, of what that area has to offer. And so, Travis, I just feel really, really blessed to be in a place where there's so much amazing stuff. What a great resource. So that we can go out and enjoy adventures. And it's the family time doing these things together. That's really what makes it so wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it was a good move on your part, you and Ann's decision to get out there. Your kids obviously enjoy being out there, so good on you for doing it. I'm going to watch and see how cold your winters get.
Yeah.
But I will definitely be traveling down to visit you often.
Well, and our listeners may put this together. If you're a longtime listener, you'll know we've interviewed a lot of guests from Gunnison and from the Crested Butte Gunnison Valley. And the funny thing about it is that we didn't go about looking for people in Gunnison to interview. It's just that great adventurous people come to the show and want to be interviewed, or they're recommended by other people to be interviewed. And all of a sudden, we started noticing a pattern. Here's Gunnison, Colorado, just a few thousand people. And yet we've had guest after guest after guest after guest on the show from Gunnison, Colorado and Crested Butte because of all the amazing adventures that these people do. It's just kind of an adventurous community, and that kind of woke me up to the area. So kind of fun.
Yeah, so if you guys want to check out Gunnison, then just write Curt. I think he told me that any of our listeners are welcome to get free room on board when they go to have a stay in Gunnison at his house. So that's very nice of you, Curt. That is a really nice offer.
Well, with 1 million downloads, I don't know if our house is big enough, Travis.
I'll park my van out front and help you out.
Okay, that'll work. I
was just say, let's talk about the summer itself. I mean, we are coming up on Labor Day here in a week, and the summers fly by so fast. I feel like I've done a ton. I mean, compared to summers 5 years ago, I feel like this has been a crazy full summer. But, what have you done so far, and what are some of the things you feel like you need to get done before the cold weather moves in?
This summer has been a little bit different because of the move. Selling our house that we had been in for 20 years up in the mountains, and then downsizing, getting rid of a whole lot of stuff, and moving to Gunnison, finding a place to live out there. Wow, it really took more time than we anticipated that it might, but that in itself was a huge adventure. But besides that, we managed to do a family trip to Mexico. That was kind of an adventurous thing for us, and we had a ton of fun with that. We got in lots of mountain biking, which has been really, really fun. And then once we got to Gunnison, of course, I already listed a lot of the things that we did there already, and big plans for the next several weeks in the coming years for even more. So I kind of feel like our summer was just kind of a blur because of everything that we had going on with the move. So we didn't get the big through hike in, and we didn't get all the 14ers in that we'd like to do yet. But we've managed to relocate to a place where that's going to be a lot easier than it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think the 14er is definitely on the list for the summer, so we need to make sure that we get both of our families together. My son Harley still has not done his first 14er yet, and I told him we were going to do that before this summer was out, so that's definitely one we need to keep on the list together.
Yeah, for sure. And Daniel wants to do that. Luke wants to do that. We'll get that 14er in before the snow flies, but we're going to have to be diligent because that's going to happen soon.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Well, mountain biking, we got a ton of mountain biking in before you guys left. We were able to introduce you to the riding up in my area up at Hall Ranch and had a blast up there. And I think every time we go out on a mountain bike, we seem to leave a little bit of blood on the trail. But I am very much of the point of view that, if you're not leaving blood on the trail, you're not trying hard enough. So as far as I'm concerned, we've tried pretty hard lately, judging by the amount of blood we left on the trail.
I've got to tell the story about the guys that we passed, just because and this is, folks, this is not to make ourselves sound big, okay? Not at all. But it's just kind of the context for the story is we had chosen a black diamond trail, which means, okay, this is crazy stuff. There's some exposure. It goes along a ridge that's 200 or 300, 400 feet high. I don't know. And it's up and down rocks with big steps and drops and climbs and that kind of stuff. So as we're going through, let's see, it's you and Harley. It was me and Caleb and Daniel, and Luke joined us later in the day. So I guess, were there 5 of us? Yeah, so we're 5. We're cruising through, and here's this group of guys, and they were decked out for mountain biking. And they really looked the part. They were great. They had the jerseys and the shorts and the bikes and the shoes and the helmets. And, man, I was like, dang, I feel kind of self-conscious because I'm in a T-shirt and a pair of ratty shorts. And I mean, I don't look like a mountain biker at all, And I was like, woo, so we go flying by these guys. And the part that got kind of funny was that a few minutes later, we see them walking their bikes through the sagebrush, and they managed to get to where my son had just come down this crazy downhill that was just such a blast. They got to him, and they looked kind of panicky and said, "How do you get out of here?"
Right.
So I don't know. I encourage people to go out there and find your sport and love your sport. But you know how we always say on the show, you don't have to spend a ton of money to do it. You don't have to deck yourself out in all the latest gear. The important thing is that you go and you do it, and then over time you can develop, or collect the equipment that you need. But I just thought it was kind of odd. I expected those guys to be really screaming down the trail right behind us, but it's not the way it turned out.
Yeah, it's funny how aesthetic image, paints a picture for you and may not be the real story. I felt the same way, actually, and I was, looking like a bit of a tool, because I had forgotten my mountain biking shoes that I normally wear. So the only thing I had down on this weekend was my low hikers, something I would do a through hike with, so I'm pedaling my mountain bike on flat pedals with hiking boots. So looking like an extra tool, but yeah, I felt the same way. I was like, oh man, I don't want to pass these guys. They're probably going to come tearing up behind me. But all in good fun, for sure. It was a blast.
Yeah, the guests that have been on our show that have all the right equipment would have really had a fun time roasting us for that one. But, it was a blast. We had so much fun. I don't know why it was so much fun for me. That one climb, Travis, it took me 3 attempts to get over this big rock outcropping that kind of had a pit in the middle, and then at the top it broke apart into several different boulders you had to do. And I tried 3 times to get up that, and when I finally got up it, I don't know why it was such a thrill, but holy cow, did I get this huge feeling of accomplishment out of that one.
Yeah, well, that's a special thing about mountain biking, in a lot of these adventure sports, because things just don't come easy. You gotta pay, to play. And, when you finally do conquer some of that stuff, and each ride you take just builds upon previous lessons, and you start clearing some of these obstacles that, just a year or two ago, you never would have even attempted to begin with. And once you finally clear them, it's a great satisfaction. And that's the thing we're trying to get across to people is, look, you go out and try this stuff, and you get this energy boost and this psychological boost, from these accomplishments. And it does wonders, for somebody in their life.
By now, you certainly know who Bent Gate is. That's for a great reason. Bent Gate Mountaineering has been sponsoring the Adventure Sports Podcast almost from the beginning, and we really appreciate that. They've made it possible for all the great shows to continue coming your way. We want to say thanks by reminding you to go to them for your backcountry gear. If you live in Colorado, then just stop by their store in Golden. If not, go to bentgate.com. They have what you need, from the latest ultralight gear to the tried and true classics for climbing, hiking, and camping, like Arc'teryx, Hilleberg, Nemo, Western Mountaineering, and many more. Need advice? They have you covered there too. Their staff are passionate adventurers who can offer help from their own experiences. Bentgate also hosts lots of events and speakers. Check out their website to see the schedule and to see all of their products. Help take care of the Adventure Sports Podcast by getting your gear from Bentgate Mountaineering.
The 180 Flame is the ideal alternative to bulky and fragile gas-burning camp stoves. The 180 Flame utilizes fewer parts with minimal weight and maximized reliability. The locking tab and slot design means there are no hinges, welds, or rivets to fail you in the field. Cook your food and boil water quickly using only small amounts of natural fuels, including twigs, grass, pine cones, and leaves. Weighing just 6.4 ounces, the 180 Flame is the ideal alternative to a backpacking stove. You can find your new flame at 180tac.com or a retailer near you. 180 Flame. Think big, pack small.
I wanted to mention, we end every show by saying get out there and have some fun. I mean, that's been my closing comment for almost every show that I've done. So it doesn't mean just have fun. It's not about hedonism. And I did a full show on this, and I forget the episode number, but if you go back and look for the show on why do adventure sports, that was a solo show that I did a full show on how valuable adventure sports have proven to be. How many of our guests use their passion for adventure to help others and to raise awareness about causes that are great humanitarian causes, and how they are impacting the world because they're doing what they love to do. And there's kind of a click there, a light bulb going off in my mind. Some people think, well, if you want to make a difference in the world, it's all about self-sacrifice, And there is sacrifice involved, no doubt. But people that find what they are really passionate about and they plug into it, they build a skill set and they build some sort of an audience, and they get the opportunity then to affect change in ways that they might find surprising. And so we have so many of our guests that are doing so many great things for others, but not to mention all of the things that it did for them. When I first started mountain biking, again, after several years without doing it, kind of like you were saying, young kids and all that, it was tough, man. I was like, "Ooh, I am not quite in the shape that I thought I was." But after a couple of years of it, now we're able to go out and do the blacks and have a blast doing the blacks. It's not that it's killer, it's that it's fun. We were out there for 6 or 7 hours biking pretty hard.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no, I agree. You talk about people doing good for society, and part of that being that it's lead by example. People get out there and do some of these things and tell us about the benefits that they've experienced. We've had people on the show that have had major anxiety issues and have turned to some sort of adventure sport to be able to overcome that, and great success stories with people doing it. I put out a call to action to have people write into us and tell us how they were inspired by people like this. And one of our Facebook followers, Mandy, wrote in, and she wrote a really long, very nice article to us about how she was inspired. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but just to highlight it, she really got inspired by the Todd Todzilla episode. Remember him?
Oh, yeah.
About
Todd's a great guy.
Yeah, about the the road running, and she basically wrote this whole thing about how Todd inspires her to keep going, and she continuously listens to the podcast on the days it comes out, and it matches up pretty well with the days that she chooses to run. But even on the days when she's thinking, I don't want to get off the couch, I don't want to run today, she thinks back to Todd, or she tunes in another episode of the podcast and is inspired to actually get off the couch and go do it, even when she doesn't want to. So it was a really sweet piece about how he's inspired her, and they've become Instagram friends and follow each other and kind of help inspire each other. So very cool. I would love for more of you listeners to write us stuff like that, because I know there are so many more stories like that. If people just take a minute to write us, I would love to hear them. It makes us, feel like we're actually doing something that's worthwhile to you guys. And I know the stories are out there. So seriously, take a few minutes, write us, send us a little audio clip or anything. Just let us know that you're being inspired by the people we interview, please.
Yeah, it helps. It really does help to know that, all the work is paying off, that people are enlarging their lives. That's another one of the mottos that we use quite a bit is find your adventure and enlarge your life. And that's really what it's about. We've had a few people write in with some nice comments on iTunes lately too, and I'm not going to read them all, but just a couple. Recently, this is by far one of my favorite podcasts. Great guests and hosts to get you pumped up about the great outdoors. That was from Sheridan. How about this one? I listen to the podcast at work. It makes me want to leave my desk and get outside. I love it. Or this podcast is great, mixing sports and adventure. Really great. Congrats. It's fun. It really encourages me, Travis, when I know that people are enjoying the content that we're putting out there and that their lives are improving as a result of it. That's really the main driver behind this. And I guess, you asked me how the show impacted my life, and one thing I haven't mentioned, but I really want to mention, the opportunity to meet and visit with such amazing guests, to make those connections, to make friends, out of people that you might just read about in a magazine somewhere because they just set a new speed record on the Appalachian Trail or something. It's been such an honor. And I'm humbled by the experience, by the opportunity to meet these people who have achieved such amazing things. And I think that it was a surprise to me about the show. But man, it's been so great, and to find out how nice these people are and how encouraging they are. I hope that all of our listeners are getting that vibe, that they're getting it, that's what it's really about.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, I know I do. Like we said, having people on the show talk about the things they've done just inspires me to keep going. It makes me feel young. It makes me want to keep going and never grow old and keep adventuring into my older years, even since I have to. So I wanted to mention, Instagram. So we have an Instagram account. If you guys haven't been there, go check it out. We like to share some of the things we're doing, but we also use it to have others share with us what they've been doing lately when it comes to adventure sports. And we just got one today I wanted to mention. It was a guy that follows us. I assume a guy. I guess I shouldn't say that. Somebody that follows us that were inspired by the Lost Creek Wilderness episode that we did, and they sent us an awesome picture of their tent in the dark, glowing down at the bottom with the beautiful starry skies that you get in these wilderness areas. And they were inspired by the episode to go check out Lost Creek Wilderness, and they sent us a picture of their experience. And it was so cool. It's just so cool to see that kind of stuff. So love when you guys share that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's a lot of fun. A lot of fun. Well, Travis, how has the show impacted your life? You know, you already said that you started doing a lot more adventures than you used to do, but I have a suspicion that it's altered your perspective about adventure sports and maybe even about life a little bit. Would you agree with that?
I would. Honestly, I think it's opened the world up to me geographically. If you think that you're in your daily life working and you're in your routine with family and work and your small hobbies, your world can be quite small. But the more and more I talk to people myself or listen to your episodes where you talk to others about traveling around the world and the things that they've experienced and the people that they met and the things that they've done, I think it really broadened my understanding and recognition and expectation of everything that is on this globe instead of just having this tunnel vision. I think as you listen to these people talk about their experiences around the world, it makes the world smaller for you. And I think less intimidating in a sense.
Yeah.
I mean, I've never been intimidated per se, but when you think about listening to these people talk, you think, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I should do that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. It just kind of escalates to that. So I think that's the biggest impact to me, actually.
I want to point out one thing that I tried to illustrate when I did the show about why adventure sports, right? And that is that it's a generational benefit. And I look at it this way. A lot of people, it's easy to get numb and kind of fall into the routine of life. And most people do. It's natural, and you shouldn't be, feel blamed or guilty about it. But the reality is it's far too easy to sit down at the end of the day and switch on the television and not be active and lose your health. And then it's becoming an issue in the United States especially. It's multi-generational that the parents aren't healthy, the kids then aren't healthy, and then their kids aren't healthy, and it goes on and on and on. But you can break the cycle. And when your perspective changes and you find the value of doing a sport that you love, an adventure sport that's exciting, or traveling, or whatever it is, and you start getting up and going and doing more, then it's an example for the kids. And it's so rewarding to see families saying, no, I'm getting back in shape, and I'm doing this sport now, and now my kids are wanting to be a part of it, and my kids are doing it, and now they have family time, and they have health back again. So, fast forward 20 or 30 years, you've got a healthy person in their older age, and you've got healthy young adults who now are raising healthy families of their own, and it's because people get up and go have fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I've seen it in my own kids, and I've come to the conclusion that it is my sole goal to make it so they are choosing to go hiking, backpacking, or mountain biking, or even fly fishing over sitting down in front of Minecraft. As long as my son and my daughter make that choice, then I'm doing it right. If they start to shake their head on Saturday morning and say, no, I'd rather sit here and play computer games instead of go mountain biking, Dad, then I've lost. I've not done my job. So I think that's a huge measuring stick.
Yeah. It's really, really fun to see that people are learning how to do sports, finding out about new sports, and getting inspired by our guests. But you know what? We have lots of resources on our site that can help people with that. And let's take a minute and share that. Just for the listeners who don't know, we have a lot of new listeners, which is also exciting. Our downloads have been growing like crazy, and it's a blast to see it. So for you who may not know, Travis, I'll take the first one. How about the episode categories? And everybody, I'm going to apologize in advance. We've been trying to get these updated, and I've written some new code that's going to do that more efficiently, so it's a work in progress. But what we do is we created an index by adventure type of all of our episodes. So you can go into the episode categories, and you'll be able to click on, say it's about backpacking or through hiking, or maybe it's about water sports or boating, or maybe it's about motorcycling or biking, or whatever sport you're curious to learn more about, or your sport that you already love and want to hear more about, you can go to that category and there will be a collection of episodes there. And with 300 episodes, there's a lot of material. You've got about 300 hours of inspiration that you can dip into. And right now we're up to, I'm not going to say because it's embarrassing, we have to catch up on adding the more recent episodes to that, but that's a resource we put together because we want people to be able to get to those older episodes that they may not have heard yet.
Yeah, I think when we first did that, it was kind of, we'll do this. It'll be a nice thing. But I think at this point, we've got 300 episodes. I mean, that's a large back catalog. That's more than many podcasts out there. And to be able to go back in and just go through the categories that you like, or even to go down through the categories and say, I don't know much about, whitewater rafting. Let me go dip into a few of those episodes, and who knows, you might get completely inspired to do a sport that you didn't even imagine yourself doing in the first place. So definitely a great resource.
If you don't have your sport, this is a good way to find something that might tickle your fancy, so to speak. Find the thing that you want to try next. But so that's the episode categories. Another resource that we offer, Travis, throw one out there.
How about announcements? We're always throwing out that we will do free announcements for people. If you guys have, a nonprofit organization or something, you're doing races to raise money for charities and that kind of thing, give us a call, write us, not give us a call, we don't have a phone number really, but write us and let us know what it is and what it is we can announce for you guys. We'd love to put it out on the show, and we have enough listeners now that we can help you spread the word and get the message out there and let people know what you're working so hard to put together. So definitely let us know about your announcements.
Yeah, announcements, that's a good one. The member site, we can't not mention that. Let me say this, we really need to mention that. So the members site we put together because people are contacting us and they're saying, what can we do to help support the show? And we decided, well, we'd like to be able to give back. So we've met so many neat people that have products and services that are adventure related, and they've offered discounts through our member site. So if you become a member of the Adventure Sports Podcast community, then you get access to all these discounts for these various adventures. And that's a work in progress as well. We have a lot of great vendors on there right now, but that's growing. And so, if you want to become a member, it helps us with the show. But what it also does is it allows you then to get access to discounts to get goods and services and guided trips and all sorts of things that can help you with your adventure sports. So that's a resource that works both ways. It helps to support the show, and hopefully the members get a lot of value out of that too.
Yeah, absolutely. If you guys want to go there, go to members.adventuresportspodcast.com. You can see the vendors that are on there, and they offer the discounts. To get a membership, it can be as little as $4.95 a month. It's a great way for you guys to help support the show by throwing us a few dollars each month. And it gets you the discounts from these memberships or these vendors. And you can also, if you're interested in a 180 stove, the stove that we manufacture, we have an annual subscription plan that essentially makes your stove free. So it's $58.95 for the year, but you get a free stove in there. So that's kind of a no-brainer if you're interested in a 180 stove. So go check that out. There's a button on the top right-hand corner of our website at adventuresportspodcast.com for that.
Yeah, and the 180 stove, just for people that may not yet know, it's a natural fuel backpacking stove, a very light stove. You don't have to carry fuel. You don't have to buy fuel. You don't have to think about the environmental impacts that fuel, creates as it's being processed and shipped around the world so you can carry toxins into the wilderness. So our stoves burn twigs, grass, leaves, that sort of thing. I prefer it for backpacking, and we also have the 180 Flame, which is even lighter. So you can learn a lot more about that by clicking on the links through our site or going to 180tac.com. But hopefully those stoves might help some of you in your adventuring as well.
Yep. And I have to mention Patreon. It was a recent addition. We had some folks from outside the United States contact us and say, I'd like to help support the show, but the member site doesn't really do a lot for me because by the time I ship it overseas, or whatever the package is. I ship it, and it kind of negates the discount. So we launched our Patreon page, which is patreon.com/adventuresportspodcast. And that's just another way for you guys to throw us a bone and help support the show. You get, depending on which level you choose, you can get some free stickers that we'll send you. And we will, for every plan, give our dogs, we got 5 dogs between us, so plenty of dogs. We'll give them pets and tell them they're from you. So that's pretty cool. I mean, to give dogs
we ignore
pets.
them otherwise. They get no attention at all unless someone goes to Patreon.
That's right. So don't allow our dogs to be neglected. Please sign up for Patreon. Yeah, and then there's also a level of Patreon that also includes a monthly membership to the members site as well. So they're kind of linked together in that fashion. So just another way to help support the show. As you guys are well aware, we do run sponsorships, but not all of our shows have sponsorships or ads on them. It takes a while to get sponsorship arrangements made, and some sponsors will come in as a test market for a month, 9 episodes for us, and then see how things go, and they'll move around to other shows. So point being is we don't bring in a whole lot of money with this show. 180 TAC is a small company. It's not like we're bringing in a lot of bank. It's just Curt and myself. So that's why we put out these options to give you guys the ability to help support the show. It's hard work, and we want to keep it going, and we can always use your help. So enough about that. We won't dwell on that anymore, but we just wanted to throw that out for you guys.
Well, and I want to say a big, giant thank you for all of you who have responded, that have become members, who have helped through Patreon or have bought some of our products. Everything helps, and we really, really appreciate that. You know what the show's about. That's why you're listening today. And, thank you for putting up with us just talking today without a guest. But we wanted to celebrate 300 episodes by kind of giving you a state of the show address, if we can call it that, so you know how things are going and what's been going on. And we're just really excited. 1 million downloads, 300 episodes, amazing guests. It's an honor, Travis, to be a part of this. I am really humbled and honored that this has become something that can be a part of our lives.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's been a blast. I've loved doing it. As you guys know, we took a little bit of a format change, and Curtis does the interviews, and I do the back end processing. So it's working well with our schedules, and I think that was a good change. One of the things that we've been talking about, Curt, is the Facebook group. So,
oh yeah,
Curt and I aren't the most awesome Facebook users, but what we would love to do is put together a Facebook group. We have a lot of listeners now, and we would love to hear more from you guys and interact from you guys. But what we want most is to give you guys the chance to interact with each other and be able to discuss one of our episodes or one of the locations. Take Lost Creek Wilderness, for example. And if you're interested in Lost Creek Wilderness, well, maybe one of our other listeners who is on that Facebook group has more information for you, and it'd be a good place for you guys to get together and just chat about adventure sports in general and things that you've done, things you've wanted to do, maybe some equipment you're considering buying. But in order to do that, I think what we've decided is, with the lack of time that we have, if any of you guys want to step up and volunteer to be a moderator of that group, we can kind of get all that figured out, get it set up, and give you those privileges to help us moderate the group and keep things going. So if one of you guys is an awesome Facebook user and you love to do it, then we could absolutely use your help. Let us know, and we'll definitely get that set up. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I think it would be too, and it could be another resource, a way for people that are really interested in adventure to get together and share ideas and inspire each other. So it's not just about the show, but it's about the people who are really into adventure sports. And I think that'd be a great way for people to connect. So, hey, if you're into that, it'd be awesome. We will need some help with it. So let us know. You can always go to the adventuresportspodcast.com. There's a contact us button on the right. You press that button and you can email us. We'll be in touch and see what comes of that. So hope someone out there, or a whole lot of you out there, think that's a great idea, and we'll help you out.
Yep, absolutely. Well, things that we want to accomplish before our summer goes away. I have a cool motorcycle trip planned. My dad comes out, or my parents come out. I shouldn't say just my dad. My poor mom left her out of the whole thing. She doesn't ride a motorcycle though, so. But my parents come out about this time every year. So my dad and a buddy of mine are all going to get on the motorcycles, and we're going to ride up through Wyoming and into the Black Hills of South Dakota and spend a few days up there riding the pigtails and the beautiful scenery up there. I don't know if you've ever been up there. It's absolutely gorgeous. But we're going to go on that motorcycle ride coming up here soon. I think fly fishing, we just did a little bit of fly fishing. It was actually the first fly fishing I've done of the season, which I'm really kicking myself for. We have a lot of that planned. I think we need to get that done before the cold weather moves in. Of course, a ton of mountain bike riding. I still need to get up to get Harley up his first 14,000 foot peak. I ordered a new hammock. Did I tell you about my custom hammock I ordered? I have that coming in after Labor Day. So that's another excuse to get out and try that thing. So, Curt, man, we got a lot to do. Don't get too settled in down there.
Well, I got to tell, speaking of mountain biking again, it's just kind of been what the summer's been about for us. But when we moved into the Gunnison Crested Butte Valley, our realtor there was part of an organization that put out a really cool app. And I got to mention this because it's so much fun. It's called CBG Trails, and it's called Trail Quest. And you can download the app, and what it does is it records unique trail miles in the Gunnison Crested Butte area. And what they've done is created a competition where the first person to ride all the trails gets a free mountain bike. And I think they've adjusted it now where there's a drawing for a mountain bike if you get over 100 miles of trails in by Halloween. And what's fun about it, it doesn't count miles that you do more than once on the same trail. The reason they did that is because they're trying to get more people to do a greater variety of trails in the area. And the reason is because, believe it or not, there are over 750 miles of mountain biking trails in the Gunnison Crested Butte Valley. And so there are a lot of people on the app who've really plugged in, and they've done hundreds and hundreds of miles of all of these trails. And so the reason I bring that up, Travis, is because that's actually a goal of mine until the snow flies, is to get my standing up, because this started many weeks before we got to Gunnison. So now I've got to do enough miles that I don't look like I'm such a lame mountain biker. So
you got to play catch up.
I'm playing catch up. I'm in, I think I'm in 76th place right now. 76th place. Not looking that great, but anyway, by the time the snow flies, I want to make sure that our standing is way up there. And the most important part of that, of course, is to experience all the amazing mountain biking and scenic beauty and natural beauty that's in that area. So that's going to take a lot of my time. Of course, I want to do that 14er with you, and Daniel especially has been harping on me. We've got to get a backpacking trip in before it turns into a winter backpacking trip, and then maybe we can do one of those too.
Yeah, well, we need to get one of those in anyway. I have that big Agnes bag I still need to review in the cold weather, so we can't get out of that one. We'll be doing that one anyway, so let's do them both.
Yep, and this season is going to be a lot of skiing for the Linvilles in Crested Butte, so we're excited about being close to a new ski area that we haven't skied much in the past, and we're going to be focusing a lot on being on the mountain. And they do a lot of ski mountaineering in that area as well. They have ski mountaineering races and a lot of cross-country skiing and cross-country ski trails all over the place. And so the winter opportunities are going to be fantastic. We'll talk about that more when winter comes, but it's going to be a blast. So that's kind of what's on the horizon for us.
Oh, very cool. Well, I think it's probably getting to be about time to wrap this one up. I want to say thanks for being my podcast partner for this show. I think 300. It was when we started this whole thing, I couldn't even visualize 300 episodes, but now we're here, and so quickly. And I look forward to the next 300 with you, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, Travis. It's been a pleasure as always. I got to say, for all the listeners out there, it's really, really hard to find a business partner that you can live with. And Travis and I have done a lot of stuff together, and he's golden.
So let me know when you find him.
Yeah. No, seriously. It's a beautiful thing, Travis, the way that we've worked together over the years. And doing this podcast with you has been an honor. And my biggest regret right now is that I don't get to hear you interview people enough. So anyway, but all of that said, it's been a blast. And I want to say a big thank you for all of the guests who have come on the show, and let the listeners know that's another way you can really help build the Adventure Sports Podcast is by recommending guests for the show. And we get a lot of recommendations, and they really do help us a ton to get the content that you guys want to hear. So thank you for all of the guests who have been on the show, and thank you, listeners, for recommending guests for the show. It really helps.
Yep, absolutely. All right, guys. Well, we look forward to doing the next 300 for you. Again, let us know who you want to hear. Let us know what other adventure sports you want to hear. Let's get that Facebook group started up. We want to be able to work with you guys and make this a major community for adventure sports. So, Curt, buddy, I think that's about it. You have a good evening, sir.
Okay, that's a wrap. And as always, I got to say it, Travis. Get out there. Have some fun.